Hey guys, be sure to press like and subscribe. Today we're going to talk about the common denominator amongst most expats. One of the biggest ones that I've noticed around here is that a lot of people that come over here, they come over here because of the cost over here, the rents, everything's pretty much cheaper, things like that. A lot of it was because of lack of planning in retirement or divorces or what have you, maybe lawsuits, things like that, that happen to some of these expats. And I've talked to some of these expats, and some of them just didn't have good jobs. Some of them just didn't plan well. I mean, one guy that I was talking to, he took all his money, invested it in a bunch of farming things and rice paddies, things like that. And then when he went through his divorce, he basically lost everything. And he had very little except a small social security fund. And he was lucky enough that he had some injuries from the military, and he was able to get some help, because he had a disability. And he did have a true disability, which was quite bad, actually. And I was quite surprised that he hadn't gone to the VA before for help, because it was blatantly obvious that it was military related. So anyway, it's things like that happen. There's a lot of military people over here because they come over here, and they were over here as you know, teenagers or in their 20s or whatever in the military, and this was the place to be at the time. They want to come back here and kind of relive that a little bit. There's so many common denominators over here. I would say the majority of people that come over here are ex-military. There's a good sized group of ex-military people over here. Most of those guys, they live up in Subic, but not all of them. And then you have these people that come over here. A lot of them are living off Social Security or small pensions or what have you. They're living on a lot of the micro budgets. I think a lot of them, they can't live back in the United States. They probably lived in a state that was very expensive to live in, and they probably didn't take into consideration that there are other states out there that you can live in where you can live fairly cheap. So they decided to just leave and come over here, which is okay. I mean, that's fine. But back home, I think they would have had more medical care, things like that. Medicare and Medicaid's just not going to help them over here much. And over here you can get insurance fairly cheap even when you're older, but it's not super cheap. It's, in some cases it is, but you don't get the coverage that you do back home, like $1 million worth of coverage. But you don't need it either. So that's part of it. But here's the biggest common denominator. And this is just something that I noticed from the emails that I get. And I get a lot of emails from people. And the biggest common denominator, and I know a lot of you guys are going to, when I say this, it resonates with so many people. And it's actually kind of sad. It kind of says a lot about the generation that's coming up right now. And it speaks loudly, because a lot of these people that are coming over here now, their children don't talk to them anymore for one reason or another, because if you don't agree with them, immediately they just throw you on the dust pile. You know what I mean? It's just the way it works. And I'm kind of in that number too, but that isn't why I come over here. And I was planning on coming over here. When I was in the 4th grade, I wrote a report one time. I actually found it before I left in some of my father's papers and stuff like that. And it was a report that I wrote about places I would like to live when I get older. And one of them was the Philippines, and the other one was British Honduras, which is Belize. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, so my story is a little bit different. I mean, I have many reasons for being over here. One of them was financial in the beginning, and later on things changed a little bit. Things come into place. And also I still don't get my Social Security yet. So I kind of planned all through my life of living somewhere outside the United States when I retired. And my plan was ultimately to retire at 55, somewhere around there, which I did. And I've done pretty well for myself over here, and I'm even doing better now with the YouTube and some other things that I've done over here, and I've been very blessed over here, and I'm very thankful for the Philippines, and a lot of people come over here, they complain. I have no complaints, really. I have no complaints. Yeah, I have minor complaints, but I mean, no major complaints over here whatsoever. You hear me talk about things because I want to be honest with people and tell people what's going on over here. I want people to know what they're walking into because it's not perfect over here. It's not perfect by any means. I just want people to understand that because a lot of people when they think about coming to the Philippines, they think, oh, it's going to be perfect here. There are other countries and there are other choices that in some cases are better, but it's over here. The English thing, people speak English over here really well, is the biggest. I mean, if you go to Vietnam or Thailand, totally different world, totally different thing. In Vietnam, I think you could probably live a little cheaper and it's a little bit cleaner there. Some people say in Chiang Mai you can live very cheap there. The question again is health insurance and life insurance. You need that, and I don't know what it costs over there. I think it's still reasonably cheap and decent. So, but then you have the language barrier. So you go to the hospital or something like that. If the doctor doesn't speak English, what are you going to do? You have to have some sort of interpreter or something like that there. And during that translation, there could be something lost, and you could be really sick and die. Whereas over here, people mostly understand what you're saying. So that's a good thing. Not to say that the medical care over here is the worst or the best. It is what it is. And each hospital here is different. You get what you pay for. If you go to a cheap hospital, you get cheap health care. If you go to a mid-range hospital, you're doing pretty good. You go to a wealthier hospital, such as De La Salle University Hospital is a good hospital. It's still very reasonable, I might add. It's way cheaper than American hospitals, and you get good health care over here. But to get back to the common denominators, so what we do is we have the people that are in the low-cost budgets because of either failure to plan, divorces, or laziness, or maybe lack of education. They didn't have a lot of money going into funds or into their Social Security or what have you. It's just the way it is over here. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. But then there's this forgotten group over here that people really forget about. Is we have a lot of people over here that we don't see very often. We just don't see them very often out and about. And they're the wealthier expats. They live in gated communities, and they live in the upper class gated communities. And they're people that are getting like probably above $3,000-4,000 a month. Some of them are getting probably way more than that, maybe even $10,000 a month. And they live in these gated communities. They hire people to go out and get their food. They have their own swimming pool, and some of them have started families, had more kids or whatever. They have the finances and the resources to do that, so they do that, and it's not a hard thing to do over here because it's so reasonable to live over here. The other thing is we get people over here that come over here that did plan for the retirement. They're sick, and let's say they have like a disability or something like that, and they can hire somebody to take care of them over here, and for very cheap money. Even if you're on like a $2,000 budget, they could hire somebody to come to the house and take care of them and cook for them during the day, possibly help them out and about the town if they have to go out or whatever to a doctor's appointment, things like that. They hire a helper, and that's okay. That's actually pretty smart, actually, because in the States, sometimes you can't get that help. Sometimes our healthcare won't cover that or whatever. So, coming over here, in that case, I'm okay with that. But if you can get insurance over here that will cover you, and some insurances you have to wait a year for it to really kick in. So you may want to consider that aspect of it too. The other thing is that there's people that come over here to get treated. Okay, they come over here because it's cheaper to get treated over here for some things than it is back in the U.S., and they don't have the wherewithal to do it back in the States, so they come over here. We don't get too many of those, but we do get a few of those. And it's kind of interesting that we do see people coming over here, and they do come over here to seek some sort of medical care. A lot of them, like I said, they come over here long-term and get long-term medical care by hiring somebody, a caretaker or whatever, to take care of them and to come in the house and take care of them. And that's a good thing, actually, that it's that cheap over here that we can do that. But the other thing is, guys, we have another common denominator over here. It's kind of a sad one. We get a lot of people with mental illness that come over here. I'm not sure why they pick the Philippines. We see them out and about sometimes, and it's kind of blatantly obvious that a lot of the expats over here do have some sort of mental illness. And guys, if you're suffering from things, whether it be family issues or whatever, I highly recommend, guys, that you seek out some sort of therapy before you come here, or maybe even when you get here. It's still kind of expensive to get a therapist over here, and I don't think the therapists over here are really decent enough to help you with those things versus people in the United States. I think it's better in the United States to get that type of care before you come here. Don't bring your issues over here, guys. We don't want to deal with your issues over here, because we deal with enough expats with issues over here. And I'm serious, and I'm not saying that in a demeaning sort of way or anything. I'm saying that in a loving way to just to try to get you to understand, if you come here, it's just going to get worse, because there's some nasty expats over here, and some of them can be bullies and push you around. I've had my share of bullies and, jerks over here, expats. I've had expats back in the United States try to reach out and take away my peace. It happens over here, guys. It happens. I've had some subscribers try to reach out to me and try to take away my peace. And it's unfortunate that happens, but these are the people that kind of need, they need to kind of look inward sometimes and say, you know what, I need to go see a therapist. I obviously have an issue, whether it be a regular therapist or a religious therapist or whatever. I mean, that's on you. It's something what you might want to decide to do for yourself. But bringing your issues over here is not a good thing, guys. It's just not the place to bring your issues. Another common denominator over here is we get a lot of jerks. I hate to say that word, but we get a lot of jerks over here, okay? And I don't know whether it's mental illness or they're just jerks, and some people say it's 80%, but it's not. It's really not 80%. But we do get a lot of people over here. I think a lot of people that do come over here do have a lot of problems. And I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of the guys over here I meet, they do have a lot of problems. When you talk to them, you can tell that they have a lot of issues. They don't have well, I'll say it, they don't have their shit together. I mean, I don't like to swear on my channel, but that's the only way to put it, guys. They just don't have their shit together. And it's sad to say that, but they sadly don't have it. And I don't know what it is with them. I'm not sure. I mean, these are the guys that fall into the categories of the fake Navy SEALs and, whatever else, the secret squirrel stuff that they supposedly did. I don't know what their game is or what their thing is. Maybe they want to build themselves up because they never got built up in life or whatever. And I tell people, when people ask about my military record, I just tell them, I was a cook, I was a submariner, and I was in the Navy. And that's it, That's all you need to know, And if you want to know the ports I pulled in, I'll tell you, But other than that, that wasn't really an exciting career in the Navy or anything like that. I'm sure we did secret squirrel stuff on my submarine, but I didn't ask about it and I didn't want to know about it, and that's it. We just did our patrols and we did our little circles, and that was it. So that's my career, guys. Now, a cook is not a secret squirrel, okay? So just FYI, not like what's that guy, Steven Seagal, And if anybody over here tells you that they were a cook in the military and they did Steven Seagal stuff, they're a liar, So it's just a bunch of bull. But we do get people like that over here, guys, and that's the ones that I'm talking about. There's a lot of people over here like that. They've been kind of going away and fading into the background, and some of them have left. The other group of expats that we get coming over here are other countries besides the U.S. and besides the U.K. and besides Australia. We get a lot of Chinese over here. They have their common denominator things too, but I'm not that familiar with them because I don't really talk to them that much. We have the Koreans that come over here. We have some Koreans over here that are actually homeless and live in the streets. We had one guy that was robbed. I might actually do a story on this guy. I talked to my girlfriend about going up and doing a story on this guy because I really want to do a story about this guy. And it'd be really interesting to get his story. I'm not sure if he speaks English, though. That's the thing. but I have heard about him, and he sits like Buddha over in I think it's General Trias, I believe, or Dasma. I'm not. I'm familiar with the line there where it starts and ends, but anyway, he sits there like Buddha, and he's got the sign, something about I want to say it's General Trias, but anyway, he sits there with a sign, and please help me, Po. And he sits like Buddha all day in the heat, and I'm kind of amazed that he can just sit there and do that. And I am going to do a story on him eventually. I'm not sure when. I want to have the time to sit and talk with him and have a really, really good talk with him and kind of tell his story after I find out more about him. I'll tell the story with him right next to me, and I'll actually give him some money too to do the story to help him out a little bit, because I think it'd be an interesting story. And I want to show you how he sits all day, which is quite interesting, because he just sits there with his cup in front of him and sits there like Buddha and sits like a statue all day for at least 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And I give the guy a lot of credit for doing that, but it's not something I would want to do as a expat here. But, especially, in his circumstances, I would suppose I would have to revert to begging, and I'm not. I do want to find out his story, because it's definitely a good story. Everybody has their story, and he certainly has his. If anybody has a story, that man does, And I really feel bad for him when I see him there. But anyway, guys, I did want to talk about the common denominators, and also, guys, I want you guys to put, some of you guys that live here, put other common denominators, because there's a lot of them. Okay, and I know I didn't touch bases on all of them. I'm sure I forgot quite a few. So I want you guys to put those on there. Please put them on there so we can have other ones, so new people can see what those common denominators are. Like why people come over here. Okay, what their issues are over here, things like that. Thanks, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, guys, and God bless.